Hey, welcome back to another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan. We were at the AHR Expo live from Chicago for this in 2024. You might notice we're in a different background than what we were there. We are actually back home. It was the last podcast of the event, and we definitely saved, I think, the best for last. No disrespect to everybody else that was on the podcasts beforehand, but Jim Sloan, George Eliadis, Jim Sloan with TR Miller, a local Chicago product. I mean, they're just now or outside. George Eliadis with ProBook. They dropped some fire on today's episode. It was absolutely amazing. The two of them, what they have going on with inside the business. Evan, what was your favorite part of that episode?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to acknowledge the fact too, like Jim and his brother started the business. They're running almost a $30 million company now. Hit 25 million last year. Doing an incredible job with what they've got going on there. And then George and his team with ProBook doing an unreal job with something that's going to be a game changer with dispatch. And that was the thing that we got into with what they're doing at ProBook is being able to dispatch for dollars, but doing it using data, not feelings. And how can you leverage technology? Because it's getting better and better by the day to be able to improve your business, get better results, get the right tech at the right job at the right time, and making sure that you're staying as efficient as possible because efficiency is sexy. Thad, what about you?
All of it, right? Like we talked a lot of different things with inside of this podcast. Talking about moving into the next stage of the business and developing leaders with inside of it. But I think the biggest part is removing the emotion from everything, like you alluded to already. It takes every emotional aspect out of the decision-making process. There's going to be no more favoritism based off of what they're doing with inside of it. But the other part too is they actually broke a record for the amount of calls that were booked and the time that they had everybody home. I'm not going to spoil it because that was a fantastic part of the episode, but we want to hear from you, of course, what your favorite part of today's episode was. So leave a note down in the comments on what your favorite part was. And of course, we wouldn't be able to do our podcast and be on the road interviewing great individuals without sponsors. So make sure you take a listen to our sponsors.
And enjoy the show.
CHIIRP, Elite Call, and On Purpose Media. So Elite Call, they are a U.S.-based call center champion for the home service industries for 20 years, actually. They've been outbounding clients' databases, filling dispatch boards with lucrative service and sales appointments, and boosting memberships like no other. They don't make calls. They actually directly integrate into your CRM, giving you a seamless experience. Don't let your competition get ahead. Let Elite Call connect with your customers and fill your board. You can visit them today at elitecall.net right there.
And we've got CHIIRP. Transform your home service business with CHIIRP, the ultimate automation toolbox. Capture more leads. Connect instantly when skyrocket your sales. CHIIRP integrates seamlessly with platforms like ServiceTitan and House Call Pro, offering automated texts, emails, and even ringless voicemails. Boost your Google reviews and customer loyalty with our proven rehash programs. Schedule your demo today and get an exclusive 25% off your first 3 months. Visit chirp.com/HSR for HVAC Success Secrets Revealed and start boosting your revenue today.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. So cheers, my friends.
Cheers, gents.
Yes, cheers.
Last one.
Yeah, last one. Ding, ding, ding. All right. And today we have on Jim Sloan from TR Miller, and we have George Eliadis from ProBook. Going to be a fascinating conversation. I know when I asked Jim to explain a little bit what ProBook does, he found a post and screenshotted and sent it to me. He's like, this is going to be easier for me to explain. And so it was pretty neat to kind of see what you guys have on the go here. And so thanks again for taking the time. Those that don't know Jim and TR Miller, you guys have been made a name for yourself over the last couple of years, growing from 2 million to big number in 6 years. So
25 million last year, and we're budgeted for 29 this year.
Nice. So 2 million to 30 million in 6-7 years.
6 years.
It's a pretty good growth ride to be on in ProBook, and what you guys are doing, and just how you stumbled upon what you guys have built in with ServiceTitan. It's going to be a fascinating conversation. So
yeah, man.
Cool.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So let's start, Jim. Why don't we go with you
Yeah.
and a little bit about your backstory, your history in a condensed version, because I know that
It's
there's
a long story and a lot of shit
story,
happened.
and I think that's even like a second podcast.
We got to
down
get Brian
the road.
on here.
We'll get Brian on here. Get you both on. I think that
It'll
might
be
a little bit of fun.
interesting.
So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
very
walk
different.
us through a short history on you guys and how you guys came to be.
Yeah, so short history. My dad bought I would call it a dumpster fire of a new construction company in 2008. Just that story. He ran it pretty okay as a tradesman that bought a company. Brian and I went to work for it, swept floors, cleaned toilets, got into the field. Parents went through a rough divorce in 2014. It was nasty, actually. It was terrible. Like at one point, my dad had to borrow money from my mom to pay payroll, so it got really interesting. Mom exited the business. Brian and I didn't know how to run a business. We were trades guys, so we went and found an organization called Nexstar in 2017 and really started building the foundation of the business, and then grew it to here. We were in HVAC mostly, did new construction, commercial, everything. And then we just focused on home service and got really good at it, and then opened plumbing and opened sewer and just kind of went off to the races. So it's a long journey, long story. We'll get to it another day.
Nice.
Yeah. So really I was in the field for 10 years doing like project management, stuff like that. Had to learn how to be a leader. Nexstar definitely helped with that. And here we are. I oversee our branch in Plainfield. We'll do about 25 million this year of the revenue. So about 100 employees under me. Wow. It's been fucking interesting. Going to be like humping furnaces to leading men and women. It's a different world.
Right. Well, it's so often in business, it gets talked about that it's easy once you have a few employees, but once you get your first leader, and then you have to get more leaders, and then now it's not necessarily about developing everybody in the organization. It's about developing leaders within the organization to be able to take it where you need to go. Yeah,
and I think oftentimes a lot of people take like their best service tech or best performing person and put them in a leadership role.
Yep.
Well, that's a fucking nightmare. It usually doesn't work out. Now you're losing a good employee, so we had to go through that, and then just really
how many times did you do it before you figured
once.
It out?
Just once? It was a fucking nightmare, and I love the guy personally. Yep. It was just nasty, and when COVID hit, we looked around and we said, "Why the hell are we dealing with a pain in the butt? Like we need to solve this." And so unfortunately, it didn't work out, and that was a lesson learned. We've also taken some good people. Cody's sitting over here. He's from the field. He worked for us for 12 years, and he kills it. He shreds it. We don't have to worry about what he's doing, so it can work out too. I think you got to find mentors in general. I think we found a lot of people in the industry that mentored us. Chris Hoffman's a prime example of helping us go from 25 to 100. When we were 2 million, we found a mentor to help us get to 10 million. Then we got to 10 million, and we found a mentor to help us get it to 20. And so I think, it's been a fun journey. So building leaders and finding mentors
Love that. So cool. And then somewhere along the line,
we ran into these guys.
You ran into these guys.
Yeah.
So George, walk us through your guys' story and how it came to be.
Yeah. So in high school, I started a power washing company upstate New York, and we worked in 5 counties in our service area. And we spent half our day in the truck just driving call to call. And our time was our income. So obviously spending half a day in the truck was pretty problematic. And then I got to school to study engineering, and I was like, what if I can build some software to cut this driving time down? And I tried selling it to my local buddies in power washing and realized that, these guys all use pen and paper. Selling software to them is just not going to work. And so then we got introduced to a painting company in Havertown, Pennsylvania, this company, Nolan Painting. And we ended up building like a custom routing and scheduling tool for them. And, they still pay us to this day. They're our first customer, but we realized painting's not a great fit because, painting crews are on a job site for a whole day. They go to a job in the morning, they leave, they go back to it the next day. So the routing problem's not really dynamic. It wasn't solving the problem that we had hoped to solve. And we ended up actually adding value just because we did their 6 estimators that were going to 4 sales calls every day. But again, painting wasn't a great fit just because to get a company with 6 estimators, they've got to be really big. And most of them have, 1 estimator tops. And on top of that, they're all using a different CRM. So we realized we had to go to HVAC, plumbing, the home services. And we made that pivot about a year ago. And we tried doing, cold email and cold calling. We got a couple of owners to let us see their shops. out by where we go to school in Pennsylvania. But, we didn't have a product. We didn't know enough about the industry. So nothing really happened until we went to ACA in New Orleans last April. And we met Jim's brother, Brian, and Mark, the marketing guy, on the very first day, the first guys we met. And, we had a couple of beers that night. We met up the next day at the conference, went to dinner, ended up on Bourbon Street. And, the rest is history. They ended up buying us some flight tickets to come out because, they saw us as innovators and hungry to learn the processes of what we were trying to build, even though we didn't have a product yet. So, after flying out there in May, I think it was, we went back. We went back over the summer. I spent like a month there, and we designed the product more, and we've been buddies and working together ever since.
Yeah, it's way better than that. Like that was professional.
He threw you
like,
some
high
beads.
level.
Is that what happened? Or?
Yeah, it was like so my mom had passed away and we had a celebration of life on a Saturday and just got hammed. Like had a party till 2 a.m. at my house, had to catch a flight to New Orleans at 9 a.m. And it was by having chance. So Chris, that we were talking about earlier, he had invited Brian on a panel. That's the only reason we were at ACA. Like we weren't going to go. And so we're like, all right, we're going to fly in Tuesday, leave after the panel, quick trip. We need to be home. We're traveling a lot. And then we won an award for marketing. And so we're like, fuck, like we're going to have a celebration of life and then catch a 9 a.m. flight to be at some award show by 1. I didn't make the award show. I got to the hotel and went to the hotel room. So Brian texted me and he's like, hey, dude, I met these kids. Like they're super smart. They got some dispatch software ideas. Why don't you come down and meet them? And I'm like, LSU women's basketball, when they won the championship, we were there that night. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I got to get out of bed. So I got ready. I went down, met them, had a blast. We had some friends there. Chris, Bobby Hamilton was there. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Copper Point, and Brad Bacon, who owns Bacon in Texas. And we all went out for a couple days, had a blast. And their thing was like, hey, these kids are really smart. They're going to create some cool shit for our industry. Make sure you help them out. So, yeah, we're like, hey, why don't you fly in, come stay at Brian's house in his guest room, only hung out and partied with these guys. And we didn't know them that well. So George came out for like 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and got in the trucks and learned the industry and heard from the technicians about their gripes about dispatch is always sending me all over the damn Chicagoland, blah, 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 blah. And then he really got to understand how our industry works before they started going into the coding. And then Tobias over there, he does the programming. So then Toby came out and he got to have the same experience. And then through that, we became really good friends. So they stay at our house. We hang out. I call my kids. I got to get them ice cream every once in a while. And so the relationship really formed.
Keep them happy.
Yeah, right? Passcode on the beer fridge, though.
Yeah. I told him, I said, hey, if you're going to stay, the house beer is Busch Light. You better get to know it. And so, yeah, it was really cool. And what was cool is before they even went into like really coding, they understood. Like, hey, man, this is the pains of the dispatchers, the field guys, management, ownership. How can we code and create something that's going to not only drive revenue, right? Because we're going to have to pay for it. It's going to take care of our customers, right? Because that's a big one. And take care of our employees. Like, how can we make our employees' experience better?
Right. And I wrote down tech buy-in, right? Like from the technicians, right? And you think a lot of times, look at the average age and the demographic of the average service technician. Right now, it's trending down as people are starting to age out, but they still are older individuals. And you're now trying to get them to buy into technology and buy into doing this and buy into doing that. And so the smarts to say, hey, why don't we actually go out and figure out what the pain points are? Mm-hmm. How can we make this something for these individuals to make it better for them? And this is the people product price I always talk about, right? And people have two offshoots. One is your individuals, your team. Yep. The other one is your customers. And your team is actually number one. Your customer is number two. Yep. And when you do your team number one, guess what happens to your customer? Well, they get treated the right way, right? So that's a key part. So I'm curious, in terms of all of that research, what was the biggest pain point, or maybe two top pain points that you're like, shit, we're going to solve this thing?
Yeah, I would think the biggest pain point that, we were able to create value in is just how people think about driving time when it comes to dispatch. Because, everywhere we had heard up until, we started getting and visiting shops was dispatch for profit is, right tech, right calls is the main principle. And we dug a bit deeper, and it's certainly correct. You want to match good opportunities to technicians that are going to perform at them and maximize the company's revenue. But at the same time, if you send a top performer driving all over the map, now there's an opportunity cost. You're taking him off of another call he can't do. And like, that's a big pain point because it's leaving a lot of money on the table. Now you have top techs running less calls than they should because their routes are taking them all over the service area. I mean, we saw that with you guys and a lot of other companies. And getting, people that are actually doing the dispatching to understand that, hey, when you have a bunch of 10 plus calls and you have a lot of performers that can run those calls, you've got to pay attention to how you're going to route those, because if you've got your top guy just driving all over the place, it's costing you, more money than people realize.
Yep. Efficiency, right?
Yeah.
And you look at what is the average business is 36 to 38% efficient from a technician standpoint.
Right.
Now, if you can make more efficiency in there, what's
and we saw
right?
that Monday, so it got like cold here, and we had more calls than we know what to do with. And this has never happened as far as I was like in operations. It sure probably didn't happen when my dad was running the company. We had like, I think we ran a record like 78 demand calls that day, which was our record. But what was most important is my dispatch manager came in, who's been working hand in hand with these guys. He goes, I'm not trying. His name's Ryan, by the way. If you're ever having a bad day, this is the dude you want to talk to. Like, he is absolutely amazing. He comes, he goes, Jim. I go, what's up, man? He goes, I don't want to be greedy or anything, but I think we can move some demand calls up that are scheduled for tomorrow to today. I said, that sounds like a great idea. What are we going to move up? So we looked at the board and we said, holy crap.
No, you can say shit. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I don't want Brian he's going to be like, what the hell? You're cussing too much. But so full send. We looked at the board and we said, okay, what calls do we want to move up? Right. Because we had like, I don't know, another 75 demand calls for the next day. And so we looked at it and we said, well, let's take care of our membership customers. Because unfortunately, we couldn't get them in by the time they called in. And so we looked at it and we moved up 5, 10 plus demand calls, because those are very important calls to us. And then I guess for people that don't know what 10 plus meaning is it's out of warranty. So you have a great opportunity to flip it and sell it.
Right. So the age is probably greater than 10 years.
Yeah. So it's greater than 10 years. We get a chance to flip it, sell it, create revenue. So not only did we pull up 5 of those calls, we pulled up 5 of our membership customers. I think 3 of them were demand and 2 were warranty callbacks. So we were able to run those calls. It's the message I sent you. Our technicians were home by 7:00, so they were super fucking happy, right? It's cold. It's -20, and I'm home at 7:00, and our customers got taken care of. But also they flipped them and sold it for $30,000. So it was like, had we not got the efficiency of the drive time, I think that day our average drive time was like 18 minutes for our technicians. Then we wouldn't have had
20 days.
Yeah. And we wouldn't have had a chance to move those calls up and generate that type of revenue. And I'm sure there's conversion rates and average tickets that my kiddos can jump into. But for me, it was like, wow, we took care of our membership customers and we produced $30,000. I walked to my sales manager, goes, thank God we moved those calls up. We sold an extra 28,500, and it worked out really well.
Just paid for ProBook.
Yeah. Well,
for a portion of the year.
A portion of it. Yeah.
But like, really, that's like, you think about when somebody calls in and it's -20 outside, they're in pain, right?
Oh, yeah.
They've got a problem. Their heat's not working. They're scared. Like, guys, am I going to get heat tonight? Are we going to freeze to death? Like, all these sorts of things, to be able to add more calls on the board because you were more efficient. Mm-hmm. Think about that.
It was
that's
huge.
Crazy.
Yeah, those customers were going elsewhere if they weren't getting to them.
Right.
That's true.
Well, a great point, right? I mean, that's the other thing is like, okay, well, it's -20 outside, regardless of how good of a relationship you have. If their shit ain't working,
and what about those 10 customers? Imagine thinking like, holy shit, am I going to have heat tonight? And then we call them up and say, hey, got great news. We'll be there in an hour, or however much the time was. It's like, imagine that feeling. Like, oh man, I am going to get heat.
Yep. But that's like, it's such an important piece too. I think a lot of people miss that part, right?
Yeah.
Is that, okay, well, if I can't get there, if I can't service that individual, if I can't be there today, they're calling somebody else, right?
100%.
Now, if they're limping through and they're still able to have heat, then okay, they might wait a day or two, right? I mean, we're in Canada. Like, when you guys were -20 Fahrenheit and Celsius recall, it was -40 outside without the wind chill, right?
Wow.
And so, like, it's the exact same philosophy and the exact same thing. Like, I don't care my relationship that I have with people that are in my city. If my furnace isn't working, I'm calling somebody until they can be there.
Yeah, I think the cancellation rate, I mean, it flooded the whole Chicagoland, but I think our cancellation rate, just being honest, like, I think too many people jump on podcasts and they're just like, no offense to people that jump on podcasts, but they tell you a lot of bullshit that, is like, we all have issues. It was like a 34% cancellation rate.
Yep.
So you got to think the next day, 34% of those calls would have canceled.
Well,
So
because they call
it's just
somebody else,
honest.
right?
Yeah,
It's
they
just
call somebody else. And
But
it
in
is what it
reality,
is,
they
right?
want to get taken care of.
Yeah.
right? But I mean, you put up 78 plus the extra 10, or
Yeah.
is it 78 in total?
We were, because the callbacks, we don't look at those as like opportunity calls. So it would have been 71, I guess, probably, if I'm doing the math right.
Right.
I got to ask my nerds.
Yeah.
Is that the right number?
It was 78 demand calls that ran on Monday, and their previous record
Right.
Was 60.
So we would have been at
furnace demand
70.
Right.
calls.
So you had 68, and then you added the
Yeah.
extra 10 to get to 78. But even still, 78 demand calls to run that on one day.
And have everybody
and
home by
get
7.
everybody home by 7, and then
Right.
like average ticket to actually go up. People might think, oh, what's the catch? You're getting to more calls, but are you losing on right tech, right call? But we actually tend to do it better just because we're looking really granularly at how well does each tech sell at each type of call, and use that to really get really precise when we value driving time against expected tech sales.
Yeah. Oh, it makes sense.
Yeah, man. And I think about too, think about the customer's experience of I got a pissed off technician because they're driving 45 minutes to an hour in between each call, but man, they hop in their van, they're at their next call within 20 minutes. Think about that experience. How happy are they? Instead, they're like, fuck, it's snowing. I'm in this cold weather and they're sending me an hour and 10 minutes away from my current job, and they're going to show up and treat the customer a lot better.
Yep. Well, they're happy, right?
Yeah, they're happy.
When they're happy, guess what?
And they know it too. Aaron runs our service. He's part of the peanut gallery in the corner. He even said before we even announced it to the team, because we were still doing beta stuff, is one of the service techs asked him, are you guys dispatching differently? Because we don't look at say you have a call in a town called Naperville, and we say, hey, let's give these 2 calls in Naperville to this tech because, hey, he's going to be this call and all that crap. You could still drive 40 minutes to get to that. We're in the Chicagoland.
Yeah.
It could literally be a 40-minute drive where our dispatchers are not going to look at that and say, they just say, hey, it's Naperville. It'll be all right.
Right.
Where they're lining it up where, instead of driving to the north side, to the south side, to the north side, it's let's hit these calls in
Right.
between.
Yeah, it's all AI driven.
Yeah.
That's the best
Yeah.
part. I'm assuming most of it is at this point.
Yeah, the AI is helpful in a bunch of contexts. Not to get too technical, but we look at AI to figure out what a tech's performance is going to be at a given job, as well as how long that tech's going to take on that given job, so we can plan their day a bit better. And we're just bolstering the dispatch front more and more, and seeing where we can do to make it more valuable driving and more catch more of the cases that typically would have to have human intervention involved.
Do you rerun the algorithm depending on every single call? Do you keep updating it?
Yeah, so it updates fully in real time.
Nice.
Whenever something in the board changes, we recalculate. And we're also constantly doing thousands of simulations for how the day will potentially evolve, and basically forecasting what calls are going to arrive that don't even exist yet, based on weather and other patterns. So extremely dynamic.
Well, and that's something that's impossible to do as a human.
Yeah,
Impossible.
Even to have a dedicated person on your staff to be able to sit there and analyze every single call. What was their average ticket? What problems came up? How did they handle it? All of it's impossible.
Yeah. And it's funny. We were doing a 2-week, I don't know if you want to call it rotating. We would look at the bullpen, we'd look at a trailing 2 weeks, and we'd update the bullpen for the week. And that's just what we would ride with, right? Because they're not going to constantly do that. And there's favoritism. People build friendships, and they want their buddy or their good buddy to get the good call. So it kind of takes that out of it too. But we weren't looking at it every day and updating it. So this is doing it in real time constantly. And I think a lot of it too is not everything's about dollars and cents. Our industry has gotten fucking weird since 2018 with certain situations in the industry. Not everything's about dollars and cents. So it's how can I make my dispatcher's job easier so they're excited to come to work, but also the customer side of it
Absolutely.
is they can now focus more on how to treat the customer than they have to worry about, oh man, I hope I send the right tech to the right call at the right time. No, they don't need to worry about that. They can update the customers more. They can engage more with the customers and make that side of the business better.
Well, it takes the emotion out of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. And so, because you mentioned that friend thing and the buddy and oh, this person might be good. Well, now you're taking that completely out of the equation.
Oh yeah.
But here's the underlying part of it too, is if you've reduced the drive time from an hour to 20 minutes, that's 40 minutes more that they could spend with the customer should they need to spend with the customer. Or maybe it's 20 minutes more, and then that compounds throughout the day, and that's where you get that extra call that you can run in the day. But when you take that extra time with the customer,
It's going to pay off.
It's going to pay off.
You
It's
take all
gonna
that
pay off.
pressure off from the
Yep.
tech, right?
Yep. And then your Google reviews take a boost because they get more, you get the time to spend thoroughly in the
Right.
house. It's not just rush, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and you're out the door.
Right.
Yeah.
I would agree with that 100%. Is you know, a lot of people, now we're going to dive into a little bit of a different subject, but we'll do it. Fuck it, who cares? Is like a lot of people think that I'm going to line like 12 calls up to my tech and just fucking wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And I'm going to change a minor part, not create a customer service. And the truth is we limit our technicians. They run last Monday, 7 calls. Didn't like it, didn't love it, but we had so many calls. But on normal, it's 4 to 5 calls. Slow down, spend time with the customer, build the value.
Right.
People are like, oh my God, they won't buy from me. So I got to be as cheap as hell. And it's like, well, how long were you on the sales call for? 25 minutes? I'm like, yeah, I'm not spending fucking 12 grand with you. If you spend 25 minutes with me, you're out of your mind. Like, slow down, take care of the customer, and it pays off. We like smash Google reviews for the size of our company. I think we have like 7,500 or something. Is like, dude, just slow down, build the value, and they'll spend the money with you. If they trust you, they'll spend the money with you.
Absolutely.
We didn't even script that whole Google review thing out. That's great. I actually didn't even look at how many Google reviews
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
had. So,
I think it's 7,500 if somebody fact checks it. It's close. It's close.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're up in the thousands,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, 6,000,
6,000 at one location.
6,000
though.
and change. So, in case those are people that are listening, we'd have some peanut gallery over. They've
We
actually
do.
been pretty quiet. I'm kind of surprised.
But now I want to challenge them on the 6,000. Can we have fun with it?
Right?
Yeah, you're not counting our other 2 locations, dickhead.
It's on. Shots fired. Shots fired. Yeah.
So I call him. There is a guy here. His name's Aaron Van Tilburg. He's our service manager. We have a great relationship. I call him my dad, so we talk a lot of crap to each other. But amazing guy. I mean, for him to stick around all day just to hang out, you know, these are 2 cool ass dudes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you have leveraged this information to also bring further coaching and training back to your team.
Yeah.
Right. You've got one tech that's amazing at running this type of call, converting that into a flip or providing more value.
Right.
Are you then bringing other technicians that are a little weaker on those calls with them to go field train?
So that's a huge debate that I have with George and Tobias, because everything comes with a price.
Yep.
And so like, we'll get into it. They're like, Jim, it doesn't make sense. You need to send like this person on this call when it's slow. Like, we're not anybody that's like, yeah, we just smashed it and we have so many calls. It's like, well, sometimes we don't, and that's okay. Like, we have shoulder seasons, and it's like, you need to send them home. I'm like, you don't understand. I need them in June. And we debated, and they're like, you need to send them on a ride along to get better. So really, I think where we're leveraging it a little bit more right now is being transparent. So where we get a lot of complaints at the company level is like, the technicians just don't understand the lineup. They don't have visibility to lineup. They don't understand what calls they're getting. So now with the dash, they have like a heat map. I don't know what like the correct term for it is like, it's on TVs, and they can see it, and they can understand where they're at and why they're getting the calls in which they're getting. Whereas before, they didn't really have access to see that.
Right.
And so it's very like, hey, yes, you want the call that Mike Earnhardt's getting? Let's get you to Mike Earnhardt's level. Right now, you're producing this, because the way the heat map works is it shows you that, and they can explain it better, but it's like dollar values. It's like, hey, this is where you're at on the heat map, and we need to do some skill practicing. We need to do some training. We need to get you in the truck. We got to have some more ride-alongs with Aaron to try to get you up to where Mike's at, so then you can get the calls that Mike's getting.
Right.
And so just transparency, I think, has went a long ways.
So elaborate on that point, right? I'm like, I'm waiting. He queued you up nicely for that one. So
I did.
He's like, my first podcast, and you're nailing it, buddy. Hey, do you want to come a co-host? You can replace this schlep over here.
Only if I get to come to Canada.
Hey,
I
sure.
do want to go, man.
Sold.
I do want to go.
Sorry, you're not allowed.
No, I got family in Upper Michigan. I mean,
there's really 2 components. I mean, Jim hit the nail on the head with the heat map. It's our dashboard that shows tech performance by job type and tag combination. So we could look at an HVAC demand call with a 10 plus tag on it to see at HVAC repairs where the system's more than 10 years old, how much does each tech make on expected profit? And we can look at an under 5 demand call on a 6-year-old maintenance, or a maintenance call that's unknown age. However you tag it and slice it when it's service tightened, we can get dollar values. And that makes the coaching really clear, because you can look at a tech and look at how he performs in 10 pluses. And, you know, if he's not at the top, if he's not that Mike Earnhardt, you know exactly where to coach him on the making the flip. Right. You can also look at an under 5 maintenance and see, all right, let's teach you about selling, you know, IAQ and, you know, all these ancillary things that, you know, the under 5 unit's not going to be replaced, but you can sell them these add-ons, and it makes it really clear to just look at, this guy's 10th in this category, let's coach him on selling IAQ stuff. And the flip side is, because dispatchers don't have to play Tetris all day anymore. They have Monday and they had a calm day and they can focus on the customers. They can also focus on the techs. And, this one's up to management, but call by call management is something that the dispatchers can do to now coach their techs, because they know the trade so well on making the most out of every call. And I think call by call management on its own is going to, probably help out lifting tickets as well. So it shows you exactly where to coach the techs for each type of call. And then dispatchers are, better equipped to coach their techs through the day.
So I'm curious, because I'm at proper tagging in Service Titan.
Yeah.
And that was something that I picked up on. And I think a lot of companies missed the mark on that.
Yep.
So was their tagging atrocious?
Yeah, let's scale this out.
1 to 10. How good or bad was their tagging?
Remember, you're sleeping in my guest room, so let's not forget that.
So their tagging is actually one of our better use cases, because they followed Nexstar standards with making their bucket sizes big enough. So they tag their HVAC calls under 5, 6 to 9 years old, unknown age, and 10 plus. And they have different tags for equipment type and plumbing. And our model performs really well. The correlation coefficients are all real nice. Other companies do struggle with that, and it's a big sticking point. And then we hear, it sounds great, but our call center is probably not going to, tag it well. So we've got something in the works that's going to actually automatically tag jobs based on, system age and what the customer says. And it would be fully tweakable to a company's parameters, but we want to remove the tagging as a barrier, because when you have good tagging, we have good data and we can make good decisions. When your tagging is a little more suspect, it's harder to perform well.
So you just use the full transcript from the phone call, and based on that, it would auto tag.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the goal.
Right.
Nice. Well, but then again, that removes the human error element out of it, of tagging it correctly or incorrectly.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people try to lean on the CSRs to do it, right? You heard them just say that is from my experience, that doesn't work. Their job is to book the call. They just need to get the customer's information, get them on the board, make sure the customer has a good experience. And so what we found is that you really got to have it as accurate as we can get it. And it's pretty damn accurate at our shop, is that there's a dispatch debrief form. And so before they can get the next call, our service technicians put the information in to confirm that the information is correct. And the dispatchers will update whatever was wrong out of the call center. And then the data moving forward is accurate.
Right.
And so a lot of people just lean on the CSRs, man. At the end of the day, book the damn demand call. So book the call and we'll figure it out on the back end. We need that demand call.
Right. Rewind 1 minute and re-listen to what he just said. Their techs fill out a form at the end of the call to make sure that all the information is correct. It goes to the CSR. CSR updates it to make sure all the information is correct. Now there's 2 data sets. Plus you add in the third one of what you guys are doing. There's 3 points of data contact to be able to ensure you're putting the right data in. Data in equals data out.
Right.
If
It's
you have
an
bad
ATM,
data
man.
in, you're going to get bad data out.
Yeah. And so what's interesting, and I talk to companies, and it's not wrong or right, man. It's just that, how do you pull any reporting to do a budget for next year if you don't know your call mix? If you don't know what percentage of your calls are going to be 10 plus or however you want to look at that, then I don't know how you do a budget. We know our historical data on how many of our demand calls that'll come in that are going to be out of warranty. I mean, we're in the HVAC business, not to hurt any feelings or anything, but we're in the replacement business. If you're in HVAC, you need to replace equipment. So if you're building a budget or you're looking at what next month's going to be, you need to know what your call split is for those chances that they're out of warranty. If you don't, then you're kind of driving a car with no GPS. I'm not from the city. I'm from a town of 1,600 people. It's I don't know how the fuck to get to Chicago, but my GPS does. And so if you're not paying attention to call mixes and tagging things correctly and making sure that your ATM and data in, data out is, you're really driving a car with no destination. You don't know how you're going to get there. You're just going to hope the phone rings and demand call comes in, and maybe they sell a piece of equipment and maybe they don't.
I mean, unfortunately, that's how most people run their business.
I know. So I'm hoping they're listening. It's not hard, man. You just ask your techs, hey, read the data plate. Can you give us the age? It's all in the serial number. Make sure that You ask just very nicely, can you please do this? And then make sure that the dispatchers are updating the system before they give them another call.
Right.
If you have them do the debrief and you're just like, hey, it's cool, thank you for doing it, and keep giving them calls, they're not going to do it.
Yep.
So you make sure that the dispatcher, the CSR in this world, looks at that debrief form and they update your tags, and then your data is accurate. And might take 6 to 12 months, but you'll get there.
Right. Yep. Here's the other part, though, is you could take a look at, and I don't know if you guys have thought about this or building it out or had a vision for it. I've taken a picture of the data plate and AI and that into the system.
Yeah, we've been told that's a problem before, and I think somebody's been entering that space. So it's something we've thought about and entertained, but it's not really in the cards right now, just because
that's the answer I get. Yeah. I've asked them for it. Like, it's not in the cards. Jim, you want us to do too much and we need to focus on this, but I think it's on the
good lesson though on staying in your lane.
I was just about to say the exact same thing. It's like, great, that's, and why don't you go with that? You brought it up.
No, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, stay in your lane. Okay.
Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, good. Well, but I mean, too many times people get shiny object, right?
Oh,
And it's like likely in your guys' case, a lot, right?
Yeah.
And even in your case too, right?
We get Brian on here. We can talk about shiny objects. I would love to talk about
visionary side of things, right? But like walk through that, because I mean, you guys get throwing so many ideas your way and so many parameters, so many things you want to build on. How do you focus out what's right and what you should focus, or not necessarily what's right? How do you filter out what you want to focus on to be able to know to stay in your lane?
That's a really good question, and it really just boils down to spending a lot of time with our customers, because like we get asked for a lot of stuff all the time, and we're definitely building a lot more stuff. We're not a one-trick pony, but at the same time, we have to figure out what's actually inflicting the largest pain. So that's why we go to their offices and we watch the people do the processes that they want automated and see, is this just going to save a couple of minutes in admin time, or is this actually going to move the needle for the business's metrics? Something like dispatches, aside from freeing up the dispatchers to be more customer centric, the operational value of better dispatching and scheduling decisions is huge. So just keeping close with our customers and seeing what's like the most painful stuff that's like top of mind now is really just bolstering dispatch more. Like when people have to reschedule customers because they're too busy, like we have a pain for showing which customers to reschedule based on
I think it's great.
our AI. What about telling customers who to outbound when the board isn't so full? That's something that we get here a lot. So making like an automated outbound suggestion based on what type of call, what kind of equipment they have and where it's located. Another thing we're going to be doing is like a customer facing scheduling piece, because we didn't even get into this, but we also automate scheduling and show CSRs.
I was going to say, we haven't even talked call center yet. Yeah, that's fair.
We show, because like scheduling is the first step of good dispatching. If your calls are spread far apart or you have too much of one type of call, you're going to either have to drive all over the map, or you're going to have to assign calls to techs that shouldn't be running them, or you're going to have to reschedule calls, all of which are bad. So we show CSRs when to book calls based on the right techs being available. So if you have a 10 plus maintenance, you might have a spot open in your maintenance business unit, but that doesn't mean you should book that call, because now you're going to have to send somebody that might necessarily not be a good fit for that call. Right. And so that's what our CSRs see, profitable capacity. But why don't we make that a customer facing widget? So when the customer logs on to TR Miller's website, they can see, recommendations on when to book the call based on what's best for TR Miller. First.
Real quick before
and what's best for the customer.
Yeah,
that too.
Right.
They got plenty of optionality.
Yeah.
Before we segue to chase, we were talking about chasing shiny things. Now we're getting into call center, which I do want to talk call center. Toby, one of the shiny things is an install board that's automated out of Service Titan, and he won't fucking do it for me. Like, we have to do it on Excel, and it drives me crazy. Like, you have to manually do it, and it's a pain in the butt. I'm like, dude, just please, can you automate the install process? And he's like, no, it's not that much value. I'm like, but it's value to me.
Right.
And he's like, no. So
Toby
does a good job. Toby does a good job also of listening to what Jim's suggestions are and just being like, yeah, no, sorry, that ain't gonna happen. And so the call center piece is we can transition to that, because I think there is a lot of value in the call center. And so I'm going to say it because there's probably a lot of people that listen to your podcast that don't outbound. Mm-hmm. And so when we joined Nexstar, Tom Marriott was like the coach, and he's like, Jim, you guys got to get to outbounding. But I was a trades guy, and I'm like, we don't want to bug our customers. Why would we want to do that? And then we didn't have any calls. And I was like, well, damn, Tom might have been onto something here. We got to start outbounding. So if you're not outbounding your customers, you should be.
Absolutely.
You really should be. And so we, again, back to having like Excel spreadsheets to try to set mins and maxes on what type of call types and how many techs you're going to have. It's very much a pain in the ass. So when I got with these guys, I go, I think there's a huge area of opportunity in the call center because nobody's doing bolt-ons in the call center. And so they came into the call center and they took a look. And so I can't talk much on it because I'm like, I barely know how to use Microsoft Word. So I don't know how half this
You
shit
type like
works.
this?
But I'm like my dad. I use one finger.
Chicken packet.
Yeah. And so they sat in there and they looked at how we did it and they're like, oh yeah, there's a huge area here. And one thing that was neat is a couple weeks ago, he goes, Jim, is our coding right? And I go, I don't know. I don't even know how to code anything. And he goes, well, it's telling us to pre-book less on Mondays. And I'm like, yeah, because we get all the overflow from the weekend. People like, we're open 7 days a week, all that stuff, but they still don't call. Like I probably don't call on Sundays because I like to hang out with my fiance and watch football. And I'm not trying to get anything done on Sunday. So we do get a huge amount of people that call in on Monday, and their programming realized that and started allowing us to pre-book less on Monday. So if you want to talk more about the call center, I want to talk about the shiny thing. And also they're doing cool shit in the call center, but I think like it's like AI. AI is like a really catchy word right now. It's like a buzzword, right?
Yep.
And so is dispatch for profit, right? So everybody wants to talk about that, but there is a lot of bolt-ons and things that they're doing in the call center that's really cool that honestly doesn't get enough attention. And the head programmer even said, like, I need to put more attention to the call center. So if you want to talk about the call center stuff, I mean, it's cool shit.
Tell you what, before we get into the call center,
All right.
we've got one of our favorite parts of the show.
Oh, let's do it.
It's called the random question generator.
Oh, we are going to bust into that. Sweet. I was
Has
wondering.
nothing to do with
What?
anything that we've been
LFP.
talking about whatsoever.
Let's do it.
You get your choice, question 1, 2, or 3. George, you can go first. You don't get to know what it is beforehand, so what's your choice? 1, 2, or 3?
Go with number 2.
All right. What are you interested in that most people have never heard of?
Interesting. Oh, this is actually fucking interesting. Like, this dude once told me that he used to go to the bank when he was a kid and get 10,000 pennies to find pennies that are worth $1 because of ROI on it. Like, he's into interesting shit.
Yeah. I'd say my
Well, and that's nickels,
Dude, yeah.
right? When it was made a solid nickel,
Yeah.
it was actually worth 7 cents instead of 5.
There you go.
yeah.
Fuck it, I'm going to go buy some nickels now.
You know what? I got a lot of free time. I'm going to go buy some fucking nickels.
Yeah, I don't do coins much anymore. That was my big hobby, coins and currency growing up. And obviously everybody's heard of coins, but
Right.
coin roll hunting was, for me, it was so much fun. I would go buy like the $25 box of pennies and look for those wheatback cents that had the 2 wheat ears in the back. And
Nice.
back when I was in like 6th grade, that was it. That was so cool. And then I moved to dimes and quarters and $50. Quarters suck. There's no silver quarters in circulation left, but $50 you could find occasionally. And then I do vinyl records too. That's like one of my big hobbies. I collect vinyl. So, maybe kids these days haven't heard of it, but I'm sure, they're kind of going out of style a few years ago. So I'd say, yeah.
Well, I think
coins
it's
and
interesting
Hipster
how
you are, but
it was like very, you said vinyls, and like obviously we know what vinyls are.
You just put them
How
on
the-
in the basement.
Yeah. How do you make money though? Because I think the way you make money, most people don't know. That's how close. Like literally, we hang out at my house and just talk. Is like, how are you making money on the vinyls? Because I don't think most people know about that.
Yeah, and I got him a Garth Brooks box set
Yeah.
over the summer.
Dude,
He's a
I'm a big country music guy. So.
But yeah, what I do is I figured it out. I run a Facebook group for records. Got like 4,000 members, and my customers there are very loyal, and they're, I've been working with them for 3 years. So I go to record shows in person, and I buy a lot of like high-end records in bulk, and then sell them in my group because they're 90s grunge. I don't know if you guys know, like, is impossible to find on vinyl because the CDs were in, right? So no one is making Alice in Chains on vinyl in 1995. So when you take that Alice in Chains Unplugged, that no one bought in 1996, now it's worth like $400 or $500, and you get a group of just like super fans that are into grunge. And I find it at a record show in New Jersey for $200. It's easy to sell and sustain a good business with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sick.
So when he first came out, rental cars are expensive, so he always like hooped these around in a TR vehicle.
Yeah.
He goes, "Hey man, I think I'm going to Iowa." I go, "First off, who the fuck wants to go to Iowa? Second, for what?" And he goes, "Well, I found this guy on Facebook Marketplace, and he's got this like I don't remember what the record was.
Smashing Pumpkins. Oh, and he had the Dave Matthews. Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, you're gonna drive all the way to Iowa to get a Smashing Pumpkins record? He's like, yeah. And I go, okay. How do you make money? And it's on the raffles.
Yeah.
The raffles is really how you do it.
Yeah, we call them waffles. But yeah, that works too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Jim. 1 or 3. Question 1 or question 3?
Go with Dale Earnhardt, number 3.
All right. Go-to karaoke song.
Oh man, dude. We went on a cruise. Aaron and I karaoke. Man, I'm terrible. Like I'm tone deaf, but my roommate's African American guy, and we love to get hammed and just try to karaoke rap, and it is absolutely terrible. And my poor fiance has to put up with it, and we like are so tone deaf and off the beat, but we love to karaoke rap. So probably Nelly's "Batters Up."
Nice. It's a good one.
It's taking it back to when we were kids, but I fucking love that song.
It's a
man.
great
It's
fucking
like,
date.
dude, it's like my hype song. I love it. Even the girls in the office, they know. Got to see him last year at the Rhino X event. That was fucking like from me to Aaron away. I'm like, oh my God, he is so handsome. And I'm not even gay. I'm getting married. I'm like, how does he look the same way he did in the 90s? Holy shit. So yeah, I would say like I like the karaoke rap, man. It's probably Nelly, and I like DMX. Like DMX was big when we were kids, and I'm terrible. Like absolutely terrible. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, love it.
Nice.
DMX is fantastic.
I totally forgot what our next segue was going to be. I got lost in
Call centers.
the pennies.
Well, hold on. Why don't you guys pick a random question?
We're the hosts. We don't
Yeah, but
Yeah, we
that
don't have
would
to
be
do it.
fun. What would you karaoke to?
Oh, easy. Baby Got Back.
Oh, yes. Perfect. Dude, for sure.
36,
Junior high
24,
dance, man.
36.
Junior high dance. That's cool.
I once got booed off stage for singing Johnny Cash's "Ring of Fire."
Really?
And I was so drunk. It was 3 in
there
the
you go.
morning. It was like last song of the night, and I somehow unplugged the mic as I was singing. I couldn't figure out how to plug the thing back
Feels like
in.
something I'll
Everybody
do.
just starts booing, and I'm just like, "Fuck it!" I dropped the mic and I walked off the stage.
You sing as good as you look, eh?
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, we were doing some karaoke on the cruise we went on, and it was pretty embarrassing. But we had a blast. Like the room was full. I didn't personally do it, but the guys we were with, man, there was some booing. Yeah, it was great though. You guys ever get a chance to do that? You ever
On
go
a
on a
cruise?
cruise?
No, I've been on a cruise. It was just a short
Dude,
one.
go hit the
3-day one,
karaoke,
but-
man. You get a whole mix of people, and it's a fucking blast. So
This boat's a rockin'.
Don't come
don't go
knocking.
knocking.
All right, call centers.
Call centers. Yeah, CSRs have so many things to deal with that logistics and profitable scheduling shouldn't be one of them. And it's just really hard to do.
Good.
Yeah.
I know you don't want it.
No, I don't. It's on APA. It's hard pass.
You know what?
I know
When
it's
you're
no Busch
nervous,
Light.
you just
It's-
crack a beer, and you'll get through this thing.
Right?
Sorry to interrupt, George.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, good. Yeah, so it's really hard, especially when you're scheduling maintenance, to think about like what's the best date for the company. Demand calls, you try to squeeze them right away, usually same or next day, unless it's 100 degrees for 3 days in the summer. But when you're dealing with routine maintenance, the choice of what day you schedule that call on has a drastic impact on how much driving time is going to come around. Because like if we take this thing right here and your calls are like, you've got a call here, a call here, a call here, a call here in one day, getting a tech to drive to all of those is going to be a lot of driving, no matter how good your dispatcher or ProBook is. So preemptively distributing those well is really huge. And humans just like, we can't even think about it of how to do that. So huge opportunity there to just help CSRs focus more on the customers and drive more profit at the same time.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. So like it bolts onto service side. Don't know how all that works, but as the customer calls in, it's got a drop down and it selects the days for us. Whereas before they'd have to like, hold on, Evan, we're going to open this sheet and see what our availability is. And the managers have to set what the call mix is. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. So they don't have to think about it. It's literally, it drops down. It tells them what days are available. And it's really cool. So they don't have to like manage spreadsheets and hope to God the CSR remembered to put in the spreadsheet that a call, they booked the call. So what would happen on the operations side, and Aaron can contest this, is like they'd overbook us and we'd be fucking pissed. Because it's like, oh, great, now my dispatch team has to reschedule 10 to 15 calls or whatever the case might be, where this is really doing a good job of making sure that doesn't happen. And so there's also the customer side of it, right? It's like nobody wants to get that call, hey, your inspection's getting rescheduled because we screwed up and overbooked and whatever the case might be. And I think they're like, again, not a computer guy. I think they're working on mixing in the weather and like our average demand calls and all that tech to that pre-booking as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, when you have a lot of weather coming in and we expect a lot of demand calls, you don't want to fill up on maintenance because, you know, you're not going to run them when that day comes, and then you got to reschedule people. And it's just, there's so much to do with being intelligent about when you book calls.
Right. So did your guys' program look at the weather, or is that something that you've manually told your team to do, or he's like,
I don't know how to use Microsoft, so you're asking the wrong cat.
We take care of that. We use weather as one of the features to predict how much demand's going to arrive and use that to assess how much maintenance to book.
Right, makes sense.
And how far out are you booking that?
So our look forward period for maintenance is up to 60 days, but we don't typically book that far out unless you're completely slammed. So if we're expecting a lot of demand to come in, you might see us booking an under 5 maintenance call, a non-opportunity, 1 to 2 weeks out, potentially further. But their recommendations, so the CSR sees the ranked options of when to book, and they could run through those to the customer. But let's say the customer has specific requests and they're only available within a certain time frame. You could either use our filter or just, book it manually, worst case.
So using Naperville as an example, if you've got a tech that's running there, but that's all they got, your software can then recommend, hey, call these customers here because we've got a list of 30 or 40, put them in this order so we can get that third or fourth call out there.
So that's not there yet. That's what I was alluding to with outbounding. Basically, like when you need calls, looking at the board and looking at your customer list and deciding who to outbound and making those recommendations. But right now it's just, the calls you already have and making the most out of them.
Yeah.
Got it. So that's a tease of what's to come.
Yeah.
All right.
So that.
But I mean, it is smart looking at the future weather to forecast and predict what you're booking at. I don't think a lot of individuals even think about that at all, really, because they're like, "Oh, I'll just take whatever comes in."
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden you get a cold spell,
and then you're rescheduling,
or it's hot as fuck, right?
Yeah, and I think weather's like it's an interesting word, right? Because like you could become a victim, like, oh, it's not hot, it's not cold, whatever. So the weather's an interesting word because your success or failure can be based on the weather. It's really easy to blame that, but at our size, it's something you got to consider. Like it's something you have to look at and say, hey, you know what? The weather's not going to fucking hit. It's not going to be cold until January, whatever that day was. Is like we need to outbound and run more inspection calls. We know that we're not going to get that weather, and that's what they're going to help with. And then rescheduling sucks, dude. It really does, and I hate doing it. It happens. Is like I want to get to a place where when the weather isn't going to enhance, cool, then we're going to book more. We're going to book more inspections. They convert at a different level, and then when it is going to enhance, I don't have to call 20 people and say, sorry, you're just not important to me today, but tomorrow I got you. Like 3 weeks from now, I'll get to you. It'll be all good. And so trying to use AI or however they do what they do, use that to help make a better experience and better calls from the management side is like, we want to get smarter, right? We're humans. We need to learn how to use computers to get smarter.
Right. Well, here's what I like about what you just said is like they do AI or however they're going to be able to do it. I don't really know. A lot of business owners get lost in this analysis paralysis. They're like, I know there's so much tech, there's so much AI. I don't know where we get. No, fuck it, I'm not going to do any of it. Right.
Yeah.
No, it's surrounding yourself with the individuals that okay, here's what I want. Can we make it happen? And letting other individuals do the work, and that's where you get out of the analysis.
I think Tommy Boy said it, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but it was something about like, I don't need to know. I don't have to stick my head up the cow's ass to know how it was made. I just need to know how the steak tastes. It's like, I don't need to know exactly how it works. I have to just trust that these dudes are super smart and they're going to figure it out for me. And when they don't, I'm going to call them up and be like, yo, this ain't working. You guys got to program something different, right?
Yeah. I could get a good look at a T-bone by sticking my head up a bull's ass, but I'd rather take the butcher's word for it.
Yeah, there we go.
No, and the other part of it, what you said as well is, do we want to become a weather-dependent business or a weather-assisted business? Right. And taking charge of your business, taking charge of your call board, making sure that you're running the calls that are going to drive your business forward, regardless of what's happening with the weather.
It's being proactive as opposed to reactive.
Exactly.
Well, I think they're getting ready to tear our room down outside of us. So
I think that's like the 5-minute warning.
yeah,
Get the hell
so,
out.
Look, gents, phenomenal conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you both for taking the time out of the HR and for you to drive in the hour and you to fly in or come in from wherever you're at these days, because I think you bounce around a lot. So butchering that one, hey, it's been a long week. So, but appreciate you both, for taking some time. So how can somebody get in touch with both of you guys? Should they want to? Obviously you guys' websites for starters, but
No, I mean, at Brian and I have always been, and we've always had people that have helped us. Like, I'm not bullshitting. Like, when we were small, we went to people and they opened their shop and they let us see. Our shop's open all the time. I'm not going to give you my cell phone number. Brian made a mistake of doing that on a podcast before, and every Jackamo sales guy got a hold of him, not a contractor, is email me. It's super simple, Jim, Jim, at TR Miller Now, and like literally phone calls, Zoom, whatever we can do to get back to the industry. I think oftentimes there's people taking away from the industry and not enough people giving back to it. So we host open houses. We have on-sites. We just had Nexstar yesterday do like an AHR open house. Our shop's always open. So shoot me an email if you want to jump on a Zoom, a phone call, fly into Chicago, do an on-site. It doesn't matter to us. It'll always be open, and it'll always be that way.
Perfect. Thanks for that. And how about yourself, George?
Yeah, I'll give out my phone number.
3 a.m. phone calls and pictures,
for a
please.
good time.
Yeah.
Call George.
A lot of salespeople. I put that on the stall last night.
Yeah, hopefully I don't
He's
get.
like, fuck, why did that's where that call came from?
Hopefully I don't get too hammered. But my phone number is 845-542-5751. You could email me as well, george@probookdispatch.com. Or you can just go to our website, probookdispatch.com, click book demo. We'll get a time to, talk or show you ProBook. And, if we can fit you in our travel calendar, we'll come out to your shop. I mean, I love visiting people's shops, like even, customers, prospective customers. If we're, able to get out there, I'd love to look at your operation and consult and, talk about how ProBook could potentially fit in your workflow.
Love it.
Hold on, boys. I want to thank you for busting my podcast cherry. I was always nervous to get on, and I met you guys. I think we were in
Phoenix. Yeah, Phoenix.
Service
World
World
Expo.
or whatever
you
that
guys were
was.
chatting with CHIIRP, and so were we.
Yeah.
And
so I appreciate it, man. When you guys are like, hey, we can have some beers and we can swear, I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. So thank you guys.
That's what you even said last night. You're like, oh, I can't really swear. I'm like, fuck yeah, you can.
Yeah, F-bomb's one of my favorite things. I don't know why, but so I want to thank you guys for allowing us to do this and keeping your word. Like when I met you guys in Phoenix, you guys were like, yeah, bring ProBook on. I'm like, oh, well, we better get the program.
Right.
And so even keeping your word when you guys texted me and you're like, yeah, dude, bring them on. So that meant a lot. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, we do have
Appreciate
2
you
questions
guys.
left, though.
Oh, let's do it.
All right. Jim, let's go with you first. All right. What is one question that you wish people would ask you more, but don't?
I think I alluded to it earlier, is that a lot of people talk about all the good stuff. And so a lot of people ask like the softball questions of like, oh, how'd you grow your company? Or how'd you do this? And it's like very basic surface level stuff. It's like, I wish people asked more of the like, here's what I'm struggling with and how do you guys get past that? Because most people don't want to admit what they're struggling with. They just want to say, hey, what's your conversion rate? I don't fucking, that's very basic level stuff. And so I guess I wish people ask me more questions about topics and things that were negatively affecting their company. But I think oftentimes egos get in the way and they won't do it.
Yep.
So I don't know, labor rates, how do you handle HR issues? How do you handle when somebody's sleeping with somebody else? Like the things that we all deal with that nobody wants to talk about or they don't want to come out and say that they have going on at their company.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's just more hardball questions instead of softballs.
Love it.
Yep.
Well, and mentorship was one of the things I would have loved to have gotten into. Unfortunately, ran out of time, so we'll have to get you and your brother back on.
Dude,
we'll get into all that too. But
Brian's very PC, very like he's first off, he's fucking awesome. He is my mentor, but he's the exact opposite. He's very PC, very like smart, intelligent leadership. And I'm like, yeah, fuck it, it is what it is. And I wouldn't be here without him. Like, dude, like he could have fired me a couple times. There was a time I quit. That's what we'll talk about on the podcast.
Oh, I love that.
There was
That's
a time.
tease.
So yeah, I mean, he's awesome, man. I can't wait to get him on here. We'll have fun. And like I said, you guys are awesome, man. Like we should do it more. Bring on some of our friends. We have a lot of like really, really cool people in the trades that usually aren't interested in doing this. let's get them guys on here because they're fucking awesome.
There's some good people in the trades
Yeah.
that are hiding.
Yeah. So that's it. Yeah. I wish people would ask me more like fucked up questions. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Well, the shit that they're actually going through,
they're
the
actually
real
going
shit.
through instead of
Right?
how do I
Yeah.
get my conversion rate up? I don't know. Go talk to Aaron.
Everybody has their own shit that they're going through. There's 8
Yes.
of us in this room right now, and guess what? There's 8 shits that everybody's dealing
yeah.
with, right? Every single one of us
100%.
individually is dealing with something on our own personal
Yeah.
lives that everybody's
Yeah.
going through it. So, anyways, 8 shits. There we go. Something new.
You can eat shit. I love that, bud.
Yeah.
7 podcasts in 3 days, and a lot of
Yeah,
beers
that's a
in
lot.
between. So,
Well, our camera battery died, so we'll have to put up a.
again,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, both of them did.
Good times.
That's
All
all
right.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
whatever.
We made it work.
We'll still rock with the
Yeah.
other question here. So, put up a banner and be like, "Whoops."
That's fault.
It's like
Now-
back in the day.
Hey, there's batteries in here. We stopped and bought some yesterday.
Yeah.
George.
Yeah.
You ask it.
What's one question you wish people would ask you more, but they don't?
Oh, he thought we were going to ask something different, didn't he?
I'm usually the one that, I'm the one learning. I'm the one asking the questions usually. This is a tough one.
You had all that time to prepare.
Yeah.
But he didn't think that was going to be the question.
I did my best.
I said 2 questions.
These
left.
damn kids.
Tell you what, I'll buy you some more time. For the guys that are in the room here, especially the ones that know Jim, you see how deep in thought he was before he answered that question? Have you ever seen him that deep in thought before? You can be honest.
They accuse me of listening to answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
That was a long pause.
They're like, yeah, we're not going to shade. We're not going to throw shade at this dude.
Yeah, I guess I wish people would ask me more like nitty gritty questions and like help me like ask questions so I can understand their situation more as opposed to just being like, what do you guys do? What are you about? I really like stories and just hearing what people are about and just having their context is a lot more helpful. So I think like when I'm in a context where I'm talking to somebody about, scheduling, dispatching, as opposed to it just being a pitch, like, can you ask me more questions about what you do currently? That way I can, learn more about them. And then I also learn at the same time. So it's like more of a win-win as opposed to like, us talking at each other.
Right.
Makes sense. It's the superficial versus the deep.
Right.
Yep. So,
Cut through the bullshit.
yeah. So,
Cool.
wrap her up.
I got 3 kids. I'm not good at that.
That's why I got a vasectomy.
Shoot not one.
No, this has been great. Thank you so much, guys, for coming up, for showing up. Truly appreciate it. This has been a fantastic conversation. Can't wait to get into it again with you. Another time with you and your brother. George, thank you so much for making the time. Well, you've been in town here having a good time with these guys. I don't know why you chose them. No, I'm totally fucking with you. No, I can see why, right? They're real, they're raw, they're authentic, they're excited about trying new things, and this is something that's revolutionary for the business. So thank you both for taking the time to do
Thank you,
this.
guys.
And
I appreciate you guys.
until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, 2 quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.